In the last section, we took a look at destructuring. And we can use destructuring for dramatically decreasing the amount of code we have to write whenever we are pulling properties off an object. But wait, there's a little bit more to it than that. Let's look at another feature of destructuring. Let's imagine for a second that we were writing a series of books about destructuring in ES6. I could guarantee you that destructuring would qualify for its own volume. There's just a lot of different ways to make use of destructuring. So we can also make use of destructuring to pull properties off of objects that are passed to functions. Let's see what this looks like in practice. Again, we're going to start with an ES5 implementation, and then we'll refactor it into some ES6. So let's create an object that represents maybe a file sitting on our hard disk. So maybe we have like something saved file. It's an object. Again, this is an object that represents something sitting on our file system. So maybe it's got an extension of like JPEG, a name of repost, and a size of 1404, whatever it might be. Presumably that would be bytes or something like that. So maybe now I want to write a function that's going to print out a summary of this saved file right here. Let's see what that would look like with ES5. So I could make a function called file summary. I'll take in a file. And then from it, we can return a template string. And we'll say the file, actually, let's outside of the reference area, we can say the file.name dot file.extension is of size file.size. And I'll close it off with the backtick again. Remember, with string templates or template literals, we use backticks instead of the normal quotes. So now I could call file summary with my saved file. And I get save file is not defined. I must have made a typo in here. Save file, saved file, there we go. Okay, so now we've got our result here. The file repost is, I got 2 dots in there. Let's drop out that one right there. So the extension is just going to be JPEG without the dot in front of it. So the file repost.jpg is of size 14,040. Okay. So the code that we have right now, again, just like all things else that we've looked at in ES6, it works, right? It works. It gets the job done. But looking at the code that I've got, we duplicate the variable name file 3 times in here. So we say file.name, file.extension, file.size. And so just like many other topics, ES6 is all about reducing the amount of repeated code that you have. So we can use destructuring to destructure objects, or properties out of the argument list up here. So instead of saying file, I could remove file and instead pull off the properties name, extension, and size. Did I spell extension right? Yeah, I did. There we go. So now inside of the string, instead of referencing file.name, file.extension, file.size, we could just reference name, extension, and size. And everything still works, but the size of this string right here, like the literal number of characters that I have to type, is dramatically less. Note that when I destructure, I am pulling properties off of the first object that it's passed in as an argument. So if for some reason we also had some other argument in here and it said like color red, if I wanted to destructure off this second object over here, I would put in a comma and then say off of that second object, give me access to the color property. And then over here, maybe inside, just for some crazy reason, I want to put the color in, and I end up with red, the file repost, blah, 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 and so on and so on. So this is another use of destructuring, where we destructure off of our arguments object. All right, so we've seen destructuring in practice now. So you must be asking yourself, surely there's more to this than just saving a couple characters, right? Well, yeah, actually there is. Let's talk about the true purpose of destructuring in the next section. First, we're going to take a quick aside and talk about destructuring out of arrays as well, and then we'll talk about the real purpose behind destructuring. So I'll catch you in the next section.